to another official episode of Just My Opinion podcast. Rate, comment, subscribe, share this with a friend, family, as well as a follower. Let's get this channel lit in the YouTube algorithm. Okay? Now we got all that stuff on out of the way. Let's get into today's video. First and foremost, I first like to say, hope everyone had a wonderful holiday. Hope everyone had a very successful Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, and everybody's safe. And hope the new year is very blessed for you. This is the first video of the year when it comes to this very YouTube channel. So I'd like to appreciate everyone's support by subscribing, watching, sharing, all that jazz. Okay, so we got all that stuff out of the way. I kind of wanted to dabble into this topic last week, but I did talk about it a little bit on the last video, which was last week. It was about Trae Young's trade rumors, why the Hawks Wizard deal would make sense for both sides. Now, this article is coming from CBS Sports. I did talk about this last week, and I even talked about the possible suitors for Trae Young, but I felt like this trade probably makes sense for both sides. Okay, so let's get into this article, shall we? Okay. One of the trends from the 2025-2026 season has been limited trade interest has been uh, small small point guards making max salary. Ja Morant rumors came and went. There's only been a few teams to have interest in LaMelo Ball. It's saying quite a bit about the market that only teams considered linking to these players is Sacramento. That has little to do with it. Hold on one second, guys. Let me pause this real fast. That had little to do with it. The Sacramento market circumstances, the whole basketball world is just thinking about the Kings as far enough behind the league-wide roster build trend to trade for players other teams do not want. Okay, Trae Young falls right into the thick of the Ball Morant tier of misfit point guards. He has a he has at times been the worst defender player in the NBA, though he's ticked his effort up just enough lately to duck that label. All of these pre-draft hopes that he will become a Steph Curry-ish type player and also have long since been not possible. He's really only taking difficult pull up threes, making them at a pretty moderate rate due to doing it none off the ball work. It takes he's basically a catch and shoot type look player. He's a familiar one. He's very familiar, one dimensional at the point. Pick and roll point guard in the league that's moving away from that model. On Monday, ESPN has reported that the Hawks are working with Young's representatives, which is his agent, on a possible trade that should surprise no one. Young is making max money to play for a team that does not want him. Atlanta is 2-8 with him on the floor this season. They're 15-12 without him. They move on following the league's newfound preference in size, defense, and athleticism, and an offensive balance that put Young fairly behind that position. With only a year and a half left on his contract, he needs to find a team that actually does value his one specific skill at the point in the league's history, in which few teams actually do. Mark Stern has reported a possibility on Monday that the Washington Wizards, for various reasons, they might be the only team in basketball that will generate a fit for Young right now. So let's dig in why this is the case. Okay, why Young makes sense for the Wizards. Uh, One of the biggest reasons is so many teams fear playing like Young is that low of a ceiling. Anyone calls that a distant weakness. Getting attacks randomly in the playoffs. Young size makes him a massive target. His off the ball in defense limits the sort of player you can put next to him. Most young teams don't want someone monopolizing the ball. Hello, how you doing, Super? Hello, how you doing? That doesn't monopolize the ball, because that's what their young players are used to. They're used to possessions for development, and most teams do not want to trade for someone who all monopolize the ball, because that metric fact that is usually mean they are already have veterans who are great with the ball. Either you have someone who's already better than Trey Young, or you developing someone you hope one day that will become a better Trey Young. Okay. So we're gonna why the Wizards make sense. Well, let's just get into it. All right. At least you got another YouTuber. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So let's get into it. All right. And I've said this last week, and I have been pretty much consistently saying this throughout this season and through the off season about Trey Young, John Morant, and Alonzo Ball. These are like one-dimensional small point guards that score really, really great. But that's pretty much all they're going to do for you. They're not going to D up as hard on the other side of the court. Um, yeah, they'll give you assists here and there, but uh, are those assists meaning that they're going to win more games? Okay. These type of players, these smaller type of players. They shoot first, ask questions later. Now they will they'll light it up in the assist column, and I know a lot of you guys will say, well, Trey Young is every time he's throwing dimes everywhere. John Morant, he's throwing dimes everywhere. Ball is throwing dimes everywhere. That's not true, Chris. That's not true. But what I am telling you is they can do that, particularly in an offensive league, an offensive market where there's really no, it's not really a defensive type market like it was in the 80s and 90s. So these assist numbers can blind the fact that you have a major problem with this player when they're one dimensional. They shoot first and they ask questions later. Now, I put Trey Young on the same Trey Young, John Morant, and Ball. I put them in the same category as Luka. They can score, but that's pretty much all they can do. All right. I think out of all the players I just listed, I think Luka is the worst defender. Okay, the worst defender. At least with Trey Young, you can come up with the excuse of, well, he's smaller. That's not really his bag. Being a small point guard, we value that, but how much do we really value that? You expect Luka, who's a much taller player, you expect a little bit more out of him on the defensive end, but you will accept the fact that, hey, even though Luka doesn't put a lot of effort in defense, you're getting much more. You're getting much more of a value on and off the court with Luka versus John Morant, Trey Young, and Ball. A lot of people are going to say that now. Is it right? Is it wrong? That's their opinion. Okay, but Trae Young, and I've said this, and interesting enough, in that draft, and see, a lot of people seem to forget about this. When there was really, to be honest with you guys, Trae Young should have went to Dallas. Dallas made the trade, and I remember Mark Cuban used to own the team. Mark Cuban made a trade where he wanted Luka over Trae Young. And I remember back in that draft how a lot of people said that was, when that trade was when that pick happened, when they swapped picks, or I believe they swapped picks or swapped players, whatever the case may be. A lot of people were going, "Wow, the Atlanta Hawks won that trade. They got Trae Young, they got a score, and the Dallas Mavericks, they got Luka. They both of them were good players. No one said that neither one of them was going to be a great players. But they said out of the two, they felt like Atlanta got the best of that trade. And interesting enough, both of these players have already been traded, okay, for the exact same reason. And it goes back to what I said to you guys when last year, when the Dallas Mavericks trade Luka to the Lakers. I said that makes sense. Why give Luka a supermax contract and he's not getting any better? And if they would have gave him that supermax contract, there would have been nothing the Dallas Mavericks organization could tell Luka. Luka is getting max money, supermax money, not just max money, supermax money. He would have been difficult to trade. And, he would pretty much hold the team hostage. He would have never gotten in shape. He would still been drinking beers. He would have still been smoking cigars. And that team wouldn't be any better than what the team that they have currently constructed right now. So I know a lot of people want to talk ish about Nico Harris, but Nico Harris saw something that the rest of us saw, that, they had no choice but to make that trade. Okay. Now, I felt like they should have gotten more because, I felt like the Lakers desperately wanted Luka a lot more than Dallas wanting to get rid of Luka. And if you look at this season, guess what? Just guess what happened. A leopard never changes his spots. Okay, Luka has gotten more pudgy. He's gotten more heavier, and he's going back to the same old Luka like when he was with the Mavericks. Okay, and Luka already done got his contract. The Lakers done gave him. It's not a super max contract, but it's a max contract, and there's little the Lakers can do as far as penalize Luka, because they can't just say, well, you know what, we're going to do what, we're going to trade Luka. That'll be ridiculous for the Lakers. They desperately need Luka for this year, next year, and as far as the future go, because they know LeBron's money's coming off the books. They're going to have $30 extra million to play with, and they're going to build around Luka. I feel like the Lakers will allow Luka to just be Luka and just going to build around Luka, and hopefully that should be enough for them to be a playoff team next year. Okay, and it's kind of funny, fast forward to this Trae Young trade. It's kind of funny. The Atlanta Hawks are in the same driver's seat as the Dallas Mavericks was with Luka. That and I think they're going to get very little for Trae Young, because every team in the National Basketball Association knows that you're getting rid of Trae Young, because Trae Young adds no value to the Dallas Mavericks. Two, you already moved on from Trae Young. So they're going to get Trae Young very, very cheap if anybody wants to trade for him, which is the Washington Wizards. Okay. And I think at this point, Trae Young really doesn't care. As long as Trae Young's getting his checks, as long as he's able to sign another max contract, Trae Young is good. He's going to say, I'm going to play wherever. As long as it's an NBA team, I'm going to play wherever. Okay. Now, I do feel this, and I don't see this actually happening, But if I was Golden State, I would make some calls and see if I can get Trae Young to Golden State. Now, here's why I say, Trae Young to Golden State. They already have a foundation. They already have the formula when they got Steph Curry. Steph Curry, is not a great defender. They hide Steph Curry. When they went small, they hide Steph Curry so Steph Curry can do his thing on the offensive end. Now, Steph Curry will try to play defense. Now, he will try to play defense. That's something Trae Young has not tried to do. But I do feel like Trae Young will blossom with the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry and Steve Kerr. Now, that will make that roster super small. You'll have Steph Curry. I'm sure they're going to try to do. They're going to have two. They're going to have Steve Kerr and Trae Young on the court together. All right, I know that for a fact. That's going to make a smaller lineup, and now you got two people that are not great defenders. And people and teams are going to have a field day with these guys, particularly if the shots don't fall in. But if I was Trae Young, and if they came with a trade like that, if somehow Golden State Warriors can get Trae Young, I don't see them getting Trae Young. But if I was Trae Young, I would welcome that trade because you're going to the West Coast. You're going to the Golden State organization. They have won championships before. They have played with players similar to your style before. Steve Kerr is an offensive type of guy. But Trae Young will have to understand that, let's be realistic here. I mean, you and Steph Curry are not going to play on the court together. And one of you two guys are going to have to come off the bench. And it's not going to be Steve Kerr for the immediate future. It's going to be Trae Young. But Trae Young can fit into when Steph Curry gets older and, he needs time off. They can, swap spots. And Trae Young later on in the future can be the starting point. And Steph Curry can just come off the bench. I think that will be great. I know a lot of people are not talking about this, but I don't think realistically the trade will work because the money is not going to work. But I'm just saying, I feel like Trae Young would probably be pushing for, if they could do it, Golden State versus going to the Wizards. He's going to the Wizards. People are no longer going to be interested in Trae Young anymore. And, it is what it is. You dig what I'm saying? So I've heard that trade. And I also heard the Milwaukee Bucks trade. I talked about this last week. I told you guys I've heard a lot of rumors that the Milwaukee Bucks are interested in Trae Young. With Giannis and Trae Young, they already got a solid defense in Milwaukee. And that could lead to a title. Trae Young and Giannis with the rest of that squad right there. That could catapult them to winning a title this year while the Celtics are down. I feel like Celtics are going to be down for the next 2 years. Even when Tatum comes back, Tatum's not going to be fully healthy. He's going to have to rehab it even the year after when he finally gets on the court. And that's going to hurt the Celtics a little bit. Okay, now Jaylen Brown is doing his thing. Okay, but there's a possibility that if the Bucks get Trae Young, and it's not going to take a lot to get Trae Young. And I just told you earlier, every team in the NBA knows that the Atlanta is done with Trae Young. So you can't really ask for a lot because you want a team to just, take Trae Young off your hands because Atlanta feels like they have their team without Trae Young. Okay. So, there you have it. And I feel like, you if he goes to Milwaukee, you got these next 2 years possibly winning the title with Giannis. Okay, I don't know how that works money wise. I'm not sure how that works, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, that's all I got. We can also, I want to talk about real fast, real quick. Um, and we talked about this last week. LeBron was voted to the All Star, but he was ranked ninth. He's not going to be a starter. He'll probably have to come off the bench. Now, uh, it may be a player that would give up their starting spot for LeBron James. That's a possibility. Um, but I'll be honest with you, I don't think LeBron, even if he was selected to be the starter, I think LeBron would have probably took the All Star game off and just relaxed. If you've been paying attention to LeBron James, he already done said he don't even watch basketball no more. And this is the same type of language a lot of older NBA players say when they know they're heading out. When they know they don't have a lot of miles on the tread and they're ready to just retire. I remember Michael Jordan saying this. Charles Barkley definitely said this. So it's no surprise that LeBron, he's ready to just retire. I still believe that LeBron's probably going to play one more year. That's next year. But I hear a lot of people saying that this might be his last year playing in the NBA. And if it is, I just don't see it because, I don't know LeBron, but you would think LeBron would want to be celebrated on his final year throughout the year, like Kobe did, like MJ did, like Shaquille did. So to me, I feel like next year will be his last year. I don't know where he's going to play, but we'll have to wait and see in the offseason how that works out. And what about the future for his uh, son, Bronny James? Will he even get off the developmental league, the D League? I don't know. Does he even have a future with the Lakers? Does he even have a future in the D League? I'm pretty sure in the offseason there's going to be something where they trade for Bronny James, just do LeBron a solid. But of those um, teams in the NBA, who would want to do that just for a 41-year-old LeBron James? Um, I've said this and I want to say it again. And if it happens, y'all just know y'all heard it first. I feel like a team that's desperate enough to allow LeBron James the freedom and flexibility to do whatever he wants to do. I feel like it's Charlotte. Charlotte needs a star. Okay, Charlotte is really not going anywhere. It's a small market. LeBron, a big name like LeBron can push his weight around in the Charlotte organization. There's no one in the Charlotte organization that's going to push up on him. I do believe Michael Jordan you know have a percentage with the Charlotte Hornets, but Michael Jordan, he doesn't really operate around the Charlotte organization. He's more focused on his on the Jordan brand, which he's not even really that focused on the Jordan brand. He's more focused in NASCAR. That's his pleasure in golf and things of that nature. But he does own a percentage with the Charlotte Hornets. But I don't think Michael Jordan is going to just run, just go back to the Charlotte organization and push his weight around with LeBron. But Charlotte desperately needs a star, and why not push for LeBron in free agency? I feel like Charlotte is probably going to be the only team that's going to get him close to max money, besides other teams signing him for the veteran minimum and the possibility of him playing with his son again. You can just kiss that goodbye because if they're giving you the veteran minimum, they're not going to kill themselves to try to get Bronny James so you can play alongside your son. Okay, so I do feel like Charlotte will give him a window to do that. So yeah. So that's pretty much all I got for today. I will see you guys next week. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. I'll see you guys when I see you, or something important drops. You know I'm going to talk about it. I'm about here, deuces.